Just a quick warning, this video does contain some science and some politics, so you've been warned. So let's get on with it. What is reality? Phenomena versus noumena. The sun is yellow, the grass is green, the sky is light blue, the water is deep blue. These things are obvious to us and very true to us. But is that the universal reality? No. These colors are not a universal reality. They are man-made labels to describe the way an average human eye picks up reflected and refracted light from the matter in question. In this example, the sun, sky, water, and grass are the noumena, the objects themselves. The colors, sounds, tastes, textures, or smells are simply the phenomena, our perceptions of the object's qualities, that we have taken in via our sense organs and interpreted with our brains. The facts, if we are to be so bold as to state anything as facts, are that we see light mostly around the 580 nanometer wavelength when we look at the sun from Earth. Grass absorbs many wavelengths, but reflects the wavelengths around 530 nanometers. The wavelengths that reach our eyes when we look at a clear sky are usually around 480 nanometers. The predominant wavelength we see from a large body of water at a distance is around 440 nanometers. Light is very interesting. The sine wave oscillation count, or wavelength, usually measured in nanometers, or nm for short, that reaches our eyes determines the color that we perceive. To get the full picture of the complication of the noumenon and phenomenon of light, you have to take into consideration all the wavelengths of the light sources. The sun, for example, puts out an incredible variety of wavelengths. You also have to consider the wavelengths that are absorbed by the object and interference matter, the wavelengths that are reflected by the object and interference matter, the wavelengths that are refracted by the object and interference matter, the various qualities of the microscopic pieces of the eye that are interpreting or intercepting the wavelength, and the brain that is processing the electrical signal from the eye. Just a quick clarification, the sine wave oscillation rate of light is interchangeable with the wavelength for this reason. The oscillation rate will give you a frequency, which is the measure of oscillations per second, while wavelength will give you the space between oscillations, which when extrapolated and put to a time scale will give you oscillations per second or frequency. Therefore, if you have either piece of information, you will make the same prediction about the color that the light will seem to be. So, since we are only fully aware of the phenomena that we humans experience with our 5 basic senses, how can we be so sure of what reality really is? Even among humans, we vary in our perceptions of phenomena. Some of us are colorblind, our taste buds are all over the map, and the same applies for sound, smell, and touch. Some of us feel like we have various 6 senses as well. It is known that many animals have wildly different senses than us, and our ability to test animals for senses outside of our current comprehension is nil. We already know of noumena and phenomena that we cannot sense from countless studies, and we haven't even scratched the surface. So, while we are on sight, we should talk about how we see the world around us, aside from just colors. We look at objects and believe that we are seeing solid things. We believe our walls and doors are 100% matter. Completely solid mass is how they seem. Even the glass seems to be solid, even though we can see through it. We certainly hope our roof is made of matter, so compact and so close together that we don't let the rain in. Plus, we know that we are solid, and we can't put our hands through our walls. So they must also be solid, right? Wrong. This is the atom that our body is mainly made up of by weight, oxygen, with 8 protons, the blue dots, 8 neutrons, the brown dots, and 8 electrons, the purple dots. Everything we classify as solid matter is actually made up of more than 99% space. That's right, 99 with around 13 nines after the decimal is the average percent of empty space in all atoms. And everything solid is made up entirely of atoms. Along with oxygen, our bodies are made of mainly carbon and hydrogen. These 3 atoms make up 99% of our body. Carbon has less of each particle than oxygen, with only 6 of each. So maybe hydrogen will come along and save the day with 1,000,000 of each particle so we can be solid. Nope, hydrogen has the least. Only 1 proton, 1 electron, and no neutrons. But we touch stuff all the time, right? Our hand never goes through solid objects. True, your hand doesn't go through, and these objects are classified as solids, but you never touch them. When you feel a solid object, you are actually just feeling the repulsive molecular force of the object telling you that it does not want to combine with you, and is not molecularly able to combine with you. Most solid objects react this way. So the forces in your hand tell the wall no, and the wall tells your hand no. The main force in question in this type of interaction is the electromagnetic force of the electrons in each object. Back to sight and light. Why doesn't light pass through your hand, but it does pass through a window? Well, both are simply phenomena. It only appears to you that all light goes through clear glass and no light goes through your hand. The noumena is that some light does go through your hand and some light does not go through your window, no matter how clear and no matter how clean. First, we need to understand that the wavelengths of the light we see make up only a small percentage of the wavelengths of light that exists. For example, X-ray is also a wavelength of light, and it passes through your hand much easier than visible light does. If you'd like to take a moment, pause this screen and write down some of these searches. I found them to be very entertaining and very informational. So please feel free. There are several types of interactions that can happen when light hits a solid object. Some light waves may pass through uninterrupted, some may reflect, some may refract, some may diffract, some may be absorbed, but usually it's a combination of these. Most of these terms have rather in-depth descriptions having to do with angles and wavelength alterations, but absorption is fairly easy to explain if you leave out the details of how it happens. If the light energy is absorbed, it will turn to heat energy, and the object will usually heat up a noticeable amount once enough light energy has been absorbed. So, are you starting to see what a huge difference there is between what our senses tell us and what actually exists in our universe? Life is a lesson in humility. The things we know as facts today will change. They always have and they always will. Science is starting to see all the flaws that arise from the Big Bang Theory, from the theory of evolution, and many other theories. That isn't to say that any religion seems to have a perfect answer either. But with a mixture of science, mysticism, and patience, we will continue to find answers. We just need to keep asking questions. Never let somebody's facts make you a slave to their beliefs. Let us step away from scientific phenomena and noumena for a moment and talk about something aimed at the heart of our everyday lives. We have been collectively awakening to the damage that is being done to ourselves and our environment for many years, due to the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and many other factors. We also see the problems that arise when some have abundance of economic resources and many feel a lack thereof. All of our societal successes and failures can also be categorized and inspected in their phenomenal and noumenal states. It is easy for us to fall into the blame game. The environmental issues are the fault of greedy industrial corporations. The inequality and failing economic system is the fault of a bloated and corrupted government, and all other problems are the fault of a nameable source, while all successes are attributed to individual hard work. Are these things truths or simply perceptions? Of course, you already guessed I would say that these things are simple perceptions that arise from misconceptions and a victim mentality. If you wish for improvements in our society and our level of civilization, we must first realize that we are all in it together, and we must maintain a level of respect and non-division from and to each part of that specific society and each part of our planetary civilization. If we wish to know what created a greedy industry, we need look no further than our own greed. If we wish to know why pollution exists, we need look no further than our own homes and cars. The bloated government? From we the people, who chose security or fear over freedom. Insurance, a government and corporate run protection racket, over trust in oneself and community to rebuild. And banking over personal financial responsibility. We stopped asking questions and started accepting everything that was told to us. We allow our governments to exact revenge on innocent civilians because we get angry, scared, and greedy. Then we defend these actions as patriotic, while our defense of these actions is actually paramount to treason. There may indeed even be secret conspiracies at work, but they may only exist when we fail to demand honesty and transparency. No part of our government should be secret from us, but we allow for the massive breach of freedom out of a desire for national security, aka fear. If there is an Illuminati bent on world domination, if there is a group of well-armed terrorists set out for destruction, if there is evil and hatred among us, the only solution is love. You cannot defeat hate with hate, only with love. You cannot defeat evil with evil, only with goodness. If it is ignorance, greed, fear, and secrecy that created these things, then let us find and spread truth. Let us show equality, selflessness, and love. Let us demand transparency. All the power is in the hands of the people for now. Let us take hold of it and not let it slip fully into the hands of those we wish to take our burdens away. If we do not hold our own burdens, we will not have our own freedoms. When we demand protection from governments, our very homes become jails, and our streets are a grid of surveillance. When we outlaw personal choices and freedoms, we build actual jails for our brothers, sisters, and children. When we ask for a pill to cure us, instead of living healthy lifestyles, we enable a corporate healthcare system that thrives off of our sickness. This is the onset of self-destruction. So, before we can come to an understanding about how to address self-destruction, first we have to understand the self. The idea of an external enemy has long been known to the wise as a false reality or phenomenon. This phenomenon gives rise to most of the ills we see around us today. A cancer is a group of cells that no longer share in the well-being and functionality of the whole. These cells only hope to devour the resources of the whole and give nothing back. They seem to see themselves as separate from the whole, yet still deserving of equal or greater supply from the whole, while growing in excess and choking out the life of the whole. When we insist that we are separate from our world and those on it, when we hoard resources, when we place our safety and well-being, or the safety and well-being of those we like, over the safety and well-being of others, or our planet itself, then we are indeed being a cancer on this earth. No matter how much we fight it, we are all linked. If there is not happiness for all, then true happiness for any will not exist. The only abundance is abundance for all. When we leave parts of the whole to suffer, then we will suffer in turn. If some have while others want, then those who have will be in fear of those who want. And a state of fear is not equal to happiness, and neither is a state of want. Once we see the self as truly just a piece of the whole, and I would take it further and say that just as we think of our body as a whole and as one, so we on earth are a whole and are one. We can then identify any hatred as self-hatred, any harm as self-harm, any war as a war on the self. And we then know that all destruction is self-destruction. How can an enemy then exist outside of the self? It cannot. Things may at times seem locked into place. It may seem very hard to make a change for the better. This is also just a self-imposed phenomenon. Change is as simple as communication of truths within and throughout the inner and outer self. Once we are through being complacent and giving into doubt and fear, we can then initiate any change we desire. However, if we choose to go to the same job every day, come home and watch the same TV every day, and allow the world to continue on a path of each self doing for itself, and each self is a small self controlled by a government and fearing other governments, then change cannot occur. If you want change to occur, the pieces of self must remain in communication. Turn off the TV and talk to the people in your community. Get involved in the mass awakening on the internet. Get involved in the affairs of your government. Ask questions. Find your own truths. Make sure those who are leading you have a deep love and concern for you. With just that little bit of communication, we can become a united self, a united world with limitless possibility. Instead of focusing on that which makes us different, focus on common goals. We have a lot of people looking for jobs. Why not let them carry part of the load and be rewarded in turn? We can automate many jobs. This will again lighten the load we all bear. We have many people doing jobs that are simply not needed. Most jobs have far more oversight or bosses than necessary. We have a far bigger government than necessary. Many people do minimal work and their jobs could be combined with other jobs. Others are overworked and their jobs should be shared. I have no doubt that with a little bit of restructuring, we could all work far fewer hours and receive greater compensation, while allowing any who wish to work a valuable position. Also, there are known sources of energy far cleaner than what we use today. There are many materials far more environmentally friendly that we could use for manufacturing. There are far more fresh and healthy foods we could be making and eating. Why do we allow our system to propagate separation by creating high-end and low-end items? Are some people less worthy of high-end items? The only things that should be made are the things that people want, not a cheap or crappy version of the things they want to reinforce the idea of one person deserving more or better things than another. But at the end of the day, please do not take my word on any of this. Find your own truth. Learn about the government that we let define our realities for us. Question everything. Enter any subject you're interested in and put the word truth after it. Then decide which side of the story your heart tells you to believe. Hold hate and anger toward none, for they are self-destructive. Do not give away freedom for security, or you will end up with neither. Learn about quantum physics. It is changing the world's perception of reality. Learn the hidden knowledge of our ancient ancestors. They weren't just stupid cavemen. Learn that all people of the world are just like you, and they are not to be feared or hated, but loved. So, before I go, here are a few more videos and searches you may want to look into. They've all been very helpful for me, and I could probably come up with 20 pages of them. But then you'd be taking my journey. They're just a couple starting points that you can look into and maybe start your own journey with. Find your own truth. Thank you very much for watching.